Hello horror story lovers. Up to this point in this story, we understand that black cat prevented a hun from reading the book, and two unknown men came to a hun at night, and they wanted to take a hun with them. Join my channel to enjoy real horror stories. I kept thinking about what happened last night. It was around 10:40 in the morning, and the owner of the horses entered the workshop. His name was Adarsh. He asked me, "Ahan, were you here last night?" I said yes. He said angrily, "Did anyone come here last night?" I said no. There was no one here except me. Adarsh said someone came in last night and cut off the horses' tails, braided the horses' mane, and turned off the heater inside the stable. We entered the stable together. Yes, it was true. The horses' tails were cut off. It was clear that the horses had been tortured. Blood stains were everywhere. I knew what is going on, but I couldn't say what I saw. I didn't like to be called crazy. I just say, it was raining last night, and I slept very early. The doors of the workshop and the stable were also locked, and only you and my uncle have the keys. Adarsh fell to thinking. Then he went and bought a big watchdog. He tied the dog collar in the corner of the yard. Then he built a small wooden house for it. It was a very scary dog, a true trained watchdog. He only took food from Adarsh's hand. I felt very good and safe because of that dog. New strange things were happening. The sound of moaning came from outside the workshop, and they were knocking hard on the door. When I wanted to perform the instructions of the book, the door and window of my room started shaking, as if there was an earthquake. What the hell was this book that made all these bad things happen? This poor dog barked every night, and he was staring at a point. I was sure the poor dog could see them. And an important point, the watchdog had nothing to do with that black cat. One night, I was watching TV when the power went out. I had an oil lamp and I turned it on. I had a small radio that had batteries. I sat and listened to the radio. It was around 10 p.m. Every night at this time, a romantic story was broadcast on the radio. I love listening to stories. For a moment, I felt I was not alone. Then I heard breathing. I even felt warmth next to my hand. I was so scared that I suddenly got up and jumped a few steps ahead. I turned back and looked behind me. There was nothing. I was afraid of everything, and that was very bad for me. I told myself not to be afraid and be strong. I went and sat down to listen to the rest of the story. When the story of the radio was over, I went to the yard to feed the dog. there was a sound of talking. It seemed like several people were talking. The sound was very quiet. I was careful to understand the conversation. It was not understandable, but it was as if the sound was coming from inside an abandoned warehouse. They were talking about killing the dog. The dog must be killed. The dog must be killed. The dog must be killed. I looked through the door. I was curious who was there. I was sneakily looking with fear and stress. It is hard to believe, but there were a cat and several crows. There was no one there, and I was very scared. I slowly returned to my room without any sound. I was thinking about what I had seen. Suddenly, the watchdog barked. He was barking very loudly, as if a thief had come. I looked out the window and saw some black shadows next to the poor dog. His sound was as if he was begging, and he was very restless, like someone who is being tortured. But he was chained and couldn't go anywhere. I didn't dare to go out, and I started to pray. 10 minutes passed until that poor dog fell on the ground. He didn't even moan. My heart beats fast. So many strange things happened to me, which had become a daily routine for me. I didn't understand how that night became morning. When it was morning, everyone gathered around the door, and one of the workers came to me and asked, "What happened last night? Did the thief come?" All I said was this: "I don't know." And I went to wear work clothes, and in front of the mirror I saw scars on my body. There were some scratches like the shape of a hand, but I had no pain. I put on my clothes and said nothing. I was working until 8 p.m. and finished the work when Adarsh called me loudly. He said, "Pour tea for me and prepare the hookah." We had a table in the corner of the yard. I put tea and hookah on the table and lit a small fire. After 15 minutes, he left the stable and came next to me. His behavior was not normal. Although the weather was very cold, but he was wet with sweat. I took a sugar cube and it fell on the floor. I looked on the ground and saw Adarsh's feet. It was exactly like the legs of those black men. That means it was not a human leg. I said with fear, "Adarsh, look at your feet." He looked at me angrily and said, "I won't hurt you just because you made a fire. You have no right to explain this to anyone. Don't forget it and keep in your mind. No door is closed for us. No one is in front of us." Suddenly, I heard a female voice saying,
"As long as I'm here, not you and not all of your tribe cannot return. If I find out again that you came here without permission, be sure you will die."
The woman's voice came from my right side. I looked there. There was no woman. It was just a black cat sitting on the edge of the wall, and he, or I should say she, was looking at me with a special expression. I went back to see Adarsh, but he had disappeared. The same woman's voice came again.
Go to sleep. We are here. We take care of you.
I got nosebleed from fear and went to my room and slept hardly.